Hi, this is William from the Headphone Experience. Tonight I want to talk to you about the Emotiva A-100 Bas-X amp. This amp was originally designed as a 50 watt per channel speaker amp. The version I've heard is that Emotiva found out people were using this for hard to drive headphones like the Hi-Fi Man HE6. They were wiring it directly to the speaker outputs. So what Emotiva did was redesigned it and put a headphone jack on it. You can see it right here behind me. Not real large. It is heavy though, weighs 11.8 pounds. But what makes this amp unique is that Emotiva designed it so if you wanted to, you could install jumpers that would direct the entire 50 watts per channel to the headphone jack. In the normal mode, the way it comes, it'll put about 200 milliwatts into 32 ohms. But when the jumpers are installed, it puts the full 50 watts per channel that's into 8 ohms into the headphone jack, which works out to 12.5 watts per channel at 32 ohms. I'll be honest with you, I didn't spend a whole lot of time with this in the low power mode. I did try it. I've got Hi-Fi Man HE500s and HE560s that I tried with it. And the HE500s, which are more efficient, sounded pretty good. Had no complaints. It's a very decent amp in the low power mode. I've got a pair of Sony MDR V700s that had more than enough power than they could ever need. When I plugged in my HE560s, which are fairly hard to drive, I felt like it lacked power. I think I was at about 3 o'clock on the volume knob to get any kind of decent volume out of it, and it was definitely lacking in power in my opinion. So I quickly went ahead and installed the jumpers. I do want to give you some advice. This amp has one major flaw in my opinion. Something very simple, but for some reason Emotiva decided to not put an indicator on the volume knob. And without an indicator, you don't have any idea where the volume knob is just by looking at it. And with 12.5 watts per channel into 32 ohms, you could melt just about any headphones or wreck your ears. So I suggest, before you even consider putting the jumpers in, to put some sort of indicator on the volume knob. What I did is I just took a little plastic jewel, a pack of about 60 of them from Walmart's 97 cents. They're self-sticking, and I just stuck it on the volume knob. I don't know if you can see it from here, but at least now I have a visual reference of where the volume's at. Installing the jumpers, it's maybe a 10-minute job. First of all, unplug the amp. I believe it was 8 screws in the top of it you have to remove, and there's 2 tiny little jumpers that come in a bag with the amp. And what I did is I used a pair of medical tweezers. It made it easier to reach in and put them where they need to be. It's basically just right behind the front plate to the left of your volume knob. And pretty simple, just slip them in there, but my fingers were too fat, so like I said, I used medical tweezers. Installed the jumpers, put the cover back on, and plugged it in. So what happened? First of all, this thing now puts out a huge amount of power, so I don't recommend it for anything but hard to drive headphones. I've tried it now with not only the HE500s and the HE560s, but I also have a pair of Hi-Fi Man Sundaras, which are about the same efficiency as the HE500, and all three work well. With the 500s and the Sundaras, I don't have a whole lot of volume range. Basically, you're looking at about 7:30 to about 9 o'clock. You're getting pretty loud by that point. So it is a little tough to make fine volume adjustments. With the 560s that are less efficient, the usable range is about 7:30 to about 10 o'clock, where they're getting pretty loud. I did want to point out with the volume knob, when you first start to turn it between 7 o'clock and 7:30, there's a little bit of channel imbalance, but that levels off as soon as you get to about 7:30. What you can't use it for is efficient headphones when it's in the high power mode. I tried my Sony MDR V700s in the high power mode, and as soon as I turned the volume knob, they were already too loud. Plus, with high efficiency headphones, like any high gain amp, you're going to hear hiss in the background. The Sonys, I believe, have an efficiency of something like 112 decibels at 1 milliwatt, so they are very efficient headphones. With the 3 Hi-Fi Man headphones, I hear absolutely no background noise, no hiss at all in the high power mode. It's absolutely dead silent. So, what am I comparing this to? I have right here a Benchmark Media DAC1 that actually uses the exact same headphone amp as the more current DAC2 and the DAC3, and it's actually a pretty respectable headphone amp. It's known as being exceptionally clear and detailed, although it's not the most powerful amp in the world. It's rated at 1.25 watts at 32 ohms, but up to that point, it's an exceptionally clean amp. Comparing the Emotiva to that in the high power mode, with my Hi-Fi Man HE560s or the 500s or the Sundaras, to tell the truth, at low to medium volumes, I can't hear the difference. They sound almost exactly the same. But that's really saying something, that this amp that costs $229 is just as clear and detailed as the Benchmark, which is known for that quality. Where the difference comes in is once I get past medium volumes and start getting into louder volumes, in my opinion, the Emotiva walks away from the Benchmark. At louder volumes, everything just sounds more solid, more controlled. My HE560s sound more dynamic. The bass is more solid and controlled, and there's more impact to the bass. I've heard a few people say that that's the one thing they didn't like about the HE560s. A few thought they were a little bright, but others thought they lacked bass impact. Well, apparently the HE560s thrive on power because they become almost a different headphone when you put that kind of power behind them. The bass just becomes more solid and has more impact all the way around. Do I have any complaints? Well, first I just wanted to say that my HE560s sound the best I've ever heard them out of this amp. The 500s and the Sundaras, they sound really good. I've got no complaints, but they probably sound just as good out of the Benchmark. The Benchmark at 1.25 watts has plenty of power for either of those. The only complaint I have about this amp, like I said, is a lack of a volume knob indicator. I don't know why Emotiva has gone this long without figuring out that people have complained about that and they really should do something about it. It doesn't seem like it would be that hard to do. One small issue is the power switches on the back, and being 15 inches deep, it is a little bit difficult to reach it. But other than that, I've got no complaints at all at this price. It does lack features. It only has one input. It does not have a preamp function. And a gain switch would be nice. I would love to see a deluxe model or maybe an upgrade of this that had a gain switch, preferably on the front, but on the back would be okay. I would like to see a three-way gain switch where low would be the same as it is now without the jumpers, high would be the same as it is with the jumpers, and maybe something in between in the middle that would work with less hard to drive headphones and give you a little bit more volume control. But like I said, those things, I'm sure it would have to cost more than $229 if they started putting gain controls, multiple inputs, preamp function, all that. So I mean, for what it costs, it's outstanding. This amp does one thing really well. It puts out huge amounts of very clean power. This thing is rated at 0.05% distortion at full output. I'm not aware of any other headphone amp that gives you a distortion rating at full output. Most of them, even if they claim something, you know, like 15 watts or whatever, their distortion rating is giving it, you know, a much lower power level. Emotiva is telling you the distortion level of this amp at full power, and it's as clean as you could ever want. Like I said, this amp does one thing exceptionally well. It lacks features, but if you need huge amounts of power for hard to drive headphones that's very clean, this amp cannot be beat at anywhere near the price of $229. Once again, this is William from the Headphone Experience. If you liked my video, please click like on YouTube, and if you would, subscribe to my channel, and also you're welcome to join us at my Facebook group called the Headphone Experience. Thank you.